What if the entire population of Africa relocated? A thought-provoking scenario. Imagine waking up one morning to breaking news. The entire population of Africa, 1.4 billion people, has decided to relocate. Not just a few families, not just one country, but every man, woman, and child across the continent packing up and leaving. What would that mean for Africa itself? And what kind of shockwaves would it send through the rest of the world? This thought experiment is mind-bending, and as we explore it together, you'll realize just how much Africa shapes the destiny of our planet. First, let's put the scale into perspective. Africa is home to nearly 1 out of every 5 people alive today. Its 1.4 billion citizens are spread across over 50 countries, with thousands of ethnic groups, over 3,000 languages, and countless traditions and religions. Moving them would mean shifting almost the combined populations of Europe and North America. Think about that. Every city, every village, every town across Africa suddenly empty, while other continents struggle to absorb billions of new arrivals. The logistics alone would be staggering. Even if every airplane, ship, and bus in the world was used non-stop, transporting that many people would take decades. Airports would collapse, seaports would overflow, fuel demand would skyrocket, and global food supplies would be stretched to the breaking point. Housing shortages would become catastrophic. Imagine trying to give a place to live to the population of Nigeria overnight. An almost impossible task. Now picture where they might go. If all Africans relocated to Europe, the continent's population would more than triple overnight. Europe currently has about 750 million people. Add Africa's 1.4 billion, and suddenly you have over 2 billion people crammed into a space already dense with cities and industry. Paris, Berlin, and Rome would explode beyond capacity. Infrastructure would crumble under the pressure. On the flip side, the cultural explosion would be incredible. African food, music, and languages would blend with European traditions, creating the most diverse continent in history. Economically, Europe might either collapse under the pressure of resources or experience an unprecedented boom thanks to Africa's youthful workforce. What if instead they all moved to North America? The United States, Canada, and Mexico together host about 500 million people. With Africa's population added, that would soar to nearly 2 billion. New York, Los Angeles, and Toronto would transform into megacities beyond anything we've ever seen. Politically, African voices would dominate instantly. Voting demographics would shift overnight, altering laws, culture, and even global diplomacy. But would the infrastructure hold? Could the highways, power grids, and food systems survive? Or would chaos unfold as millions struggled for homes and jobs? Asia, already the world's most populous continent, would face a different challenge. With 4.7 billion people already, adding another 1.4 billion would push it over 6 billion. Countries like India and China, already dense, would feel unimaginable strain. Yet Africa's young population could energize industries, provide massive labor forces, and accelerate innovation at a pace no one thought possible. But resource wars would be inevitable. Water, housing, and farmland would become battlegrounds, as billions competed for survival. And then there's Africa itself, left completely empty. Picture Cairo, Lagos, Nairobi, Johannesburg, Addis Ababa, all ghost cities, skyscrapers abandoned, streets silent, airports empty, with runways overtaken by weeds. Within a few years, nature would reclaim the land. The Sahara might expand, while jungles and rainforests spread into deserted towns. Wildlife would flourish again. Lions, elephants, gorillas, and leopards would roam freely without human interference. Africa's vast resources, its oil, gold, cobalt, and diamonds, would sit unclaimed. Or perhaps not. With no one left to defend the land, foreign powers would rush in to exploit it, sparking wars over who controls the empty continent. The economic consequences would be staggering. Global trade would shift overnight. Every country hosting relocated Africans would face an explosion of new labor markets. Wages could crash as supply overwhelms demand. But at the same time, innovation and productivity might skyrocket. African entrepreneurs, scientists, and artists would reshape economies wherever they settled. Airlines would face the busiest migration in history. building fleets just to move people. Ports would be overwhelmed. Supply chains would bend and break under the pressure of feeding billions in new places. Culturally, the world would never be the same. Imagine Afrobeat concerts lighting up Tokyo, Nigerian jollof rice becoming a staple in Canadian households, and Maasai traditions mixing with Brazilian festivals. Over 3,000 African languages would spread across new lands. Instead of African culture being confined to one continent, it would saturate the globe. Diversity would explode in every nation, but identity would also be challenged. Would people still feel connected to Africa if the land itself was empty? Or would African become a global identity that transcends geography? Politically, the storm would be unimaginable. African nations would lose their sovereignty, their land empty while their citizens became minorities, or even majorities, in new host countries. The United Nations would fracture under the weight of representation changes. Wars might erupt over land, resources, and integration. Borders could collapse. Or, in the best-case scenario, humanity could unite like never before, forging a truly global civilization out of necessity. Could it ever really happen? Realistically, no. Relocating 1.4 billion people is impossible. The logistics, the politics, the economics, it just can't be done. But thought experiments like this reveal something powerful. Africa matters more than most people realize. Its population is young, growing fast, and projected to hit 2.5 billion by 2050. That means Africa isn't going anywhere. It's rising. Instead of imagining Africa moving to the world, perhaps we should imagine the world moving to Africa. With its resources, people, and innovation, Africa may one day become the destination, not the departure point. So here's the question for you. If Africa's entire population had to relocate, where should they go? Europe, America, Asia, or somewhere else? And what do you think would happen to Africa itself if it were left empty? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be reading and featuring the most creative answers in future videos. This scenario may be impossible, but it teaches us something real. The future of Africa is the future of the world. Its people, its culture, and its potential will shape what's ahead for all of us. And that's why we need to stop underestimating the continent and start imagining its true place in humanity's story. If this video got you thinking, smash that like button, subscribe for more thought-provoking aviation and travel scenarios, and share this with someone who loves big what-if ideas. Because sometimes, the best way to understand the future is to imagine the impossible. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep questioning, and keep your mind open. Because the world is full of possibilities, and Africa is at the heart of them all.